Quick intro. In a nutshell, the programmer's job is to translate features from the specs into the software code. The translation can be made either directly when the programmer takes a spec and immediately starts coding, "This is a bad idea," or after creating the software design documentation. The software design documentation is a detailed technical description about how the spec requirements are going to be implemented into the software code. This is a good idea. Two common types of software design documentation are 1. System or architecture design document. 2. Code design document. Brain positioning. There are two ways of constructing a software design. One is to make it so simple that there are obviously no deficiencies, and the other way is to make it so complicated that there are no obvious deficiencies. The first method is far more difficult. CAR, or computer scientist. Each developer should have his own development environment. Environment is a software-hardware combo. It can also be called the development playground, or sandbox. The architecture of the playground imitates the architecture of the production environment or its part. By the way, the production environment or production is a software-hardware combo that allows our customers to interact with our software. It includes software that we've developed, plus software written by other people like a web server. Architecture of a web-based application. First, let's learn a couple of tricks. Trick number 1. You can look inside each Python script mentioned later on if you go to Test Portal, Application, Source Code. Trick number 2. You can view source code of any web page if you do this. 1. Point your cursor on an object-free spot of the web page. An object-free spot is any spot on the web page without a web object, such as image, link, etc. 2. Do a single right-click. 3. Select the View Page Source. Here is the typical architecture of the production environment of a web-based application. Web server, application core, database. Let's take a quick look at how these components interact with each other. 1. After the user enters www.sharelane.com into the address bar of the web browser and presses the web browser button Go, a request to retrieve the default web page of www.sharelane.com hits the web server of sharelane.com, and in response, the web server sends this to the hard disk of the user. A text file, index.html, containing HTML code, and an image file, logo.jpg. By the way, the first or default page that a user sees after requesting the main website URL, for example, www.sharelane.com, is called the home page. By the way, the communication between the web browser and the web server is based on the request-response protocol or set of rules called HTTP, or Hypertext Transfer Protocol. The currents of HTTP-based requests and responses are called HTTP traffic, or simply web traffic. 2. After the user clicks the link Enter, an HTTP request is sent to the web server to launch the Python script main.py. The Python script main.py belongs to the application core. That script generates HTML code that is sent to user's hard disk via web server. Three. After the user clicks the link Sign Up, an HTTP request is sent to the web server to launch the Python script register.py. The Python script register.py also belongs to the application core. That script generates HTML code that is sent to the user's hard disk via web server. HTML code generated by register.py includes web form with text field, zip code, and button Continue. 4. After the user presses the button Continue, the form data, name of the field, zip code, and its value, which is user's input into text field zip code, is passed through the web server to register.py for processing. If the supplied zip code has the correct format, 5 digits, register.py generates an HTML page with web form containing fields first name, last name, email, password, confirm password, and a button Register. As we already know, that web page is sent to the user's hard disk by the web server. Five. After the user filled all fields, he presses the button Register, and a request containing the web form data is passed through the web server to register.py for processing. Script register.py does processing, and if everything is okay, for example, email format is valid, it inserts a new row into DB table users, test portal, DB, data, users, and generates a confirmation web page about the successful registration. As we already know, that confirmation web page is sent to a user's hard disk by the web server. By the way, the term application or software application can be used in either a broad or narrow sense. In the broad sense, it refers to the website in general. In the narrow sense, it refers to the concrete piece of software. For example, Python script register.py will use the term application in its broad sense. Brain positioning. The application core is the most sophisticated part of the software application. Here is an analogy. When I visit the fine cigar store, 1. I ask a salesperson to bring me a box of cigars. 2. The salesperson asks me my age because it's required by law. 3. If and when my age is verified, I give the salesperson my credit card. 4. The salesperson processes that credit card. 5. If my card is not declined. 6. The salesperson goes to the back room. 7. And brings me my fine cigars. All caps represent actions connected to the processing of my order or application core. Can I receive my order without the salesperson's interface, which is ears, eyes, and tongue? No. Can I get the box if it's not available in database, which is storage? No. Both the interface and the database are essential to our application, but the application core is the most sophisticated and logically charged part. 8 main reasons why bugs appear in the software code. Let's list the main reasons why programmers produce a buggy code. 1. Bad and/or changing specs. We just covered this. 2. Bad attitude or work ethics. For example, a developer might be irresponsible, uncaring, or just lazy. 3. Not enough programming experience. A developer can be a responsible person but has no idea how to do programming correctly. 4. Neglecting coding standards. We'll cover this next. 5. Complexity of the software. Many internet projects are so complex that the brain of a mere mortal just cannot possibly predict all the consequences of the creation, modification, removal of a code. 6. Bugs in third-party software. For example, bugs in operating systems, bugs in compilers and interpreters. These are the programs that translate software code written by humans into software code understandable by hardware zeros and ones. We'll talk about it. Bugs in web servers, bugs in databases, bugs in software libraries. 7. The absence of unit testing. Unit testing is testing performed by the programmer himself. The typical developer's excuses: why should I look for bugs while we have testers? And I don't have time. We'll go over this. 8. Unrealistic timeframes given to write code. We'll go over this as well. Lesson recap. 1. Coding is the translation of the spec or requirements in some other form, for instance a verbal request from a manager, into a software code. 2. The programmer who creates the code design document does a great favor to himself and the company because planning allows to see future nuances and prevent bugs. 3. The most common architecture of a web project consists of the web server, the application core, the database. 4. While the user interface or UI and database are essential for the software, the application core is always the most complex part of the software. 5. HTML and image files are downloaded to the hard disk of a user's computer and he sees web pages and pictures in his browser. 6. A web server is responsible for handling HTTP traffic. 7. The application core is responsible for logical processing of data. Database is responsible for data storage. 9. Developers write buggy code because of one or a combination of the following factors: bad and/or changing specs, bad attitude or work ethics, not enough programming experience, neglecting coding standards, complexity of the software, bugs in third-party software, the absence of unit testing, unrealistic timeframes given to write code. 10. Programmer writes and tests his code on his own development environment. 11. Production is a term for an environment that serves to our customers.